one thing I noticed taking steps to knowledge, like especially getting, you could say, really into the first round and even really into the second round, I started to experience what I said, where I had to take better care of what's stimulating my mind and my senses. But another thing, another sense started coming up where I see a lot of the human world almost as something old, something that's passing away, something that is no longer relevant or necessary. I'm not saying humans aren't necessary or relevant. I'm saying a lot of the things they engage in. It just seems, it's strange to see things and it already feels like ancient history. Certain kinds of entertainment, certain kinds of attitudes. It just seems like it's something that's so far gone from my experience, but to see people still engaging in it, like things I avoid, things I don't get involved in, certain kinds of movies, certain kinds of music, even just music itself. It doesn't matter how good it is, but you can overindulge. There's just so much overindulgence with things. And it just feels ancient, like almost like it's already gone. It just needs to, it's in the process of passing away. While simultaneously new things are coming in. New things. Taking steps to knowledge can really get you experiencing those new things. Really, really. Things that are, they're relevant now, but they're going to be even more relevant 100 years from now, 200 years from now, even 500 years from now. You can feel that reality now. You don't have to wait. You don't have to come back life after life to see it firsthand. The part of you that's timeless, the part of you that's formless, it's already there. It already knows. It already feels. It's already sensitive to that. And it can deliver certain things to you that are important to your understanding now and to your experience now. Being so specific where you are right now. Some things are relevant. Some things are important for you to feel, to understand. Certain perspectives, like the greater community perspective that the new message talks about. Having that greater community perspective. It's not what you might think it is. It's not just about thinking about it a lot from your old human standpoint. It's more of an experience. It's a very broad kind of experience to have your mind open up in your experience, like your soul, to be able to open up wide enough to be able to receive that kind of reality. It's a reality that's already there, but so many people are not able to receive it. To discern it. It's all about discernment. Just being able to discern. Just thinking about it is not the same thing as experiencing it with your greater mind. You have a greater mind within you. It's not your thinking mind. It's not your mind that assumes things. It's not even necessarily your authority in human design and all that stuff. Like, it's way deeper than that. Like I said, it's the part of you that's timeless and formless. It's the part of you that is not bound by these narrow definitions with your human design or your astrology. That's very important in terms of your current experience in the world. It's very time bound. It's form bound. It's very limited. It's very specific. It's very, unique in many ways. It's just really kind of in a specific time. But if you think that's all you are, is just a little spark and then you're done, then what? Just nothing? Like, there's so much more to you than that. So much more. I'm not negating it. I'm not saying, I'm not denying it. I'm not saying that stuff doesn't matter. Your experience in your current life, your body graph or your astrology and all that, your numerology, your family, but you have a spiritual family. You have a greater reality. You have knowledge within you. You have a deeper experience that transcends so many limitations. This deeper part of you is not necessarily conditioned by anything you're conditioned by. In fact, it's not at all. It's not conditioned by your nodal axis. It's not conditioned by your Mars or anything that may be going on with your chart or your channels. It's not conditioned by any of that. It doesn't have open centers and defined centers, and it doesn't have to wait for things in the way you might with your strategy or whatever you think, So it's funny that getting in touch with this deeper intelligence, this deeper experience, it just transcends what you think is necessary with things like human design. It's not the same thing at all. It's not the same thing. People think their ultimate guidance in life is just coming purely from their body graph. Yeah, there are things in it that can help you very much. But there's a greater part of you that is not, it's not bound by those things. It's as if it's nothing. It's the eternal part of you, the part of you that was never born and hence will never die. It's eternal. What would it be like for that part of you to actually come into your awareness? Really start coming into your awareness. You can feel it deep within you. It's almost like a memory. It's more familiar than anything you've ever experienced in this life. It's more familiar than your channels. It's more familiar than your rising sign. It's more familiar than your Jupiter placement or your sun placement or anything. It's more familiar than all that combined. All of that stuff is temporary. Okay? Temporary. It doesn't last. It's very, very temporary. Your temporal existence, when you think of temporary, you think of temporal, right? Your temporal existence, your worldly existence, is always open to change. It's always going to change. It's never going to stay the same. It's not permanent. But there is a part of you that is permanent. That is so much more intelligent. It transcends time. It transcends space. People have gotten in touch with this in different ways throughout history, different practices, shamanism. But steps to knowledge is important because it's for this time. The time you're in is important. It's not like it's not important. I don't want to make it sound like that, like it's meaningless or something. Steps to knowledge is important for this time because of what's happening. The emergence taking place into this greater community of intelligent life that we're surrounded by. There's so much intelligent life all around us. And not all of them know know humanity, even some that might be within our local vicinity, they don't know we're here because they never come in this direction. They're too busy doing their own things. So the freeing nature of a greater community perspective, it's very freeing because it makes you less self-centered, less self-obsessed. When you realize that we're surrounded by intelligent life that is so different from us, and we look just as strange to them as they do to us. And understanding that we are not the center of the universe. There's stuff going on. The new message says it's basically infinite. There's intelligent life and civilizations are all around us at every conceivable level of development, from the very primitive all the way to the very advanced and everything in between. It isn't like there's one galactic government. Like, that's something, the intervention that's in the world now, that's what they want you to believe. Like there's some unified galactic government. Like, that is so impossible because of how vast it is. How much intelligent life there really is. The new message says that when it comes to trade, it's a very complex system. One world, if it is forced into trade, might trade with 2 or 3 other worlds at most, even though it's surrounded by thousands of races. Logistically, you just can't go more than that. You might be able to trade with 2 or 3 races. And those races that you trade with are themselves trading with other races that you're not in contact with. And it's like a network. It's like a net that just goes out. You might learn of things through your interactions with intelligent life that you cannot have direct access to because it's too far away. It's in an area that you're not traveling in, that you just don't have access to, that you don't even have the time or the resources to go explore. And even if you did, it would be a waste. It might even be dangerous. Like, there's things about it. Like, everything is done very carefully. There is no galactic federation of anything. Even within our local region of space, there's not like a government. There are agreements. There are agreements about how things can be done. And sometimes those agreements are bent. They're worked around. Like what these intervening races are doing here. Outright conquest is not allowed. Can't do that in this region of space. It's too populated. It leads to too much instability. Resources get destroyed. So that's not allowed. But what they can do is manipulate, persuade, do a lot of really, really underhanded stuff to slowly bring a world into their control. And there's a few rules that they can work around in order to do that. If it looks like a world is not resisting your presence, then you're allowed to stay there. That's what the pacification program is about. They want to deaden people's senses, make them very solipsistic, telling you it's all just in your head. The universe is just one giant baby crib. You can get anything you want. You just need to shut up and stop being critical. Stop using your critical faculties. It's all just a big vacation. That's all reality is. Okay, those kinds of teachings are coming from somewhere. And the beings that those kinds of teachings are coming from, with all the people channeling this kind of thing, that's not for the betterment of the world. It's really, really not. And there are many other things taking place. Very subtle, but very powerful in terms of their effects over time. This whole world could be overtaken without firing a shot. The new message warns against this. The Allies of Humanity briefings warn against this because it's happened before in other worlds that go through this transition. So there's that. But not all races are evil like that. Not all races are manipulative like that. But they had to earn their freedom. They had to claim their freedom. They had to become very discerning. They had to develop. They had to advance. They had to understand that this is not a situation that you emerge into just all lackadaisically. Oh, the universe will take care of me. Everything will take care of me. Oh, yeah, you'll be taken care of, all right. You bet your ass you'll be taken care of. Is that what you want? Just to be taken care of? Not me. The greater community is nature, just like in this world. It's natural. There's competition. There's tragedy. Shit happens. Beings are doing things just to survive, just to get by. They have no scruples. They're not they have no problem doing things that are even like horrendous. Things that are hideous. Just if they've lost their own spirituality. Just like people in this world who don't have a spiritual foundation, they don't really care about other people. They're not concerned. They just want to get theirs. Take that and just magnify it times 100 and consider entire races that have went down that path. Very, very technologically oriented, very secular, very brutal, almost machine-like in how they behave, doing anything and everything possible, learning how to manipulate, learning to get what they need. It's not just humanity that has this issue, it's out there. But you also have very advanced, spiritually advanced beings. But you also, when you think about that, you can't think that they're just going to come in and save you. That's actually not spiritually advanced to do that. You're not everybody's savior. They can help in other ways that you might not expect. The Allies of Humanity briefings is one way. They have to stay far away from what's happening here. They cannot intervene. If they did, it would just be bad news all around for them and their own worlds. Their own worlds would come under extreme scrutiny from these aggressive races. They don't want that because they know what it leads to. Less freedom, period. Less freedom. Freedom is so important, and it's so rare out there. I can feel it with these beings. They've gotten very close to me. I can feel the lack of freedom that they have. They don't even know what it is. They don't have anything within them that is like truly free. Freedom is not just doing what you want. It's not just doing what you want. Freedom is being connected to your source and allowing that to come through into the world so you can find your true destiny. It's, and with that kind of freedom, if it can be kept alive in the world, there will be more creativity. There will be more innovation. Of course, there are more ground level freedoms, like street level freedoms. Those are important, but it's not everything. Those freedoms lead to other kinds of freedoms. You'll notice that if you're really free on the street level, that can actually become a form of slavery. If you're just given everything you want, you got all these options, you got all these preferences. And when you just start drowning in preferences without finding your deeper nature, that just becomes like a prison all over again. It's a prison without bars. It's slavery. It's a kind of slavery. And that's another aspect of the pacification program taking place in this world. They want to drown us in options, in preferences. False freedom is what they want us to really get lost in. While at the same time, other things are taking place. While you're distracted. But the presence of knowledge is universal. The new message says it's the one thing that can be communicated between any race. No matter how different their cultures are, no matter how different their form is, which can be quite extreme, the presence is the same. That's the one thing that can be communicated. It can be translated. When you're connected to that deep knowing, and there's another being from another race that's also very connected in that way, things can be shared. Knowing can be shared. And it's almost like a kind of support. You support each other in a way that just is so far beyond your intellect. It's beyond anything you can account for with just your intellect. It's an experience. Things can come through with just gestures, feelings, knowing. It's a greater mind. It's a greater mind that is bigger than just your individual mind. It's greater than just your individual race. There are races out there that are so different from humanity. They don't think like humanity. They don't have the same kinds of priorities as humanity does. They don't have the same kind of art. They don't have the same kind of focus. The same kind of language, cultures, history, nothing. Extremely different. But for spiritually advanced races, for spiritually advanced beings in those races, that's the one thing they would have in common. Very much in common with spiritually advanced beings in our race. And there can be communication on that deeper level. But I know people's thinking minds would be like, well, what are they communicating? What are they talking about? The weather? Yeah, maybe. They might talk about the weather. Which way the wind blows, right? But there's so much more than that. There's a lot. It helps you get more in touch with your timeless nature, your formless nature that is not tied to one specific time, one specific place, or even one specific world, one specific race. This greater part of you is very broad. It can even be connected to other beings in other worlds. Very much. But this spiritual foundation has to be present. It has to be actively practiced. There has to be a deep awareness of it. With these races that are intervening in our world right now, doesn't even exist. They know that it exists, but they don't practice it. They don't experience it. If they did, they wouldn't be here. Because this is the most unspiritual thing you could think of doing. to a whole world like this. But they don't care. They're just doing what they think they need to do. In the same way, when you have brutal human beings who really think they're just doing what they need to do. Really kind of ruthless, brutal people that might have control or a monopoly of some kind. They're not concerned with everybody's feelings or their spiritual advancement or their autonomy, their sovereignty. They're not concerned about that. They don't sit up at night thinking about that. Same thing with these other races. And what kind of human beings do you think these other races are trying to get in touch with? Those kinds of people, maybe? You bet your ass. But they're also trying to get in touch with people that are easily influenced. People that can maybe be a candidate for channeling. That's happening. Through the pacification program, they just really want humanity to be lulled into a new kind of sleep. Opportunity. That's what this time is about. Certain doors are closing, other doors are opening. It's very tumultuous, it's very difficult, it's very confusing, but there's a lot of opportunity. Things opening up that you just could not have imagined was possible before. Whole new experience. And it's interesting because it feels new, while at the same time it's very, very familiar. There's something about it that feels natural. It's connected to the deepest part of you, the part of you that knows. It's unshakable, that part of you. It cannot be deceived. It cannot be manipulated. It's very pure. It's very clear. It's very clean. It's very deep as well. It feels new because you haven't really had it emerge in your life yet. Maybe you've had a little experiences of it here and there. Sometimes you may have had certain breakthroughs. But taking steps to knowledge really opens up. So it really opens it up quite wide. Quite wide. Are you ready for that kind of experience? Are you ready to open up that wide? If you're not, it's perfectly fine. I don't judge. It's not about judging. It's about knowing when you're ready to start opening that up. Maybe you're not ready yet. Maybe you need to go through a few more things. Maybe you need to cycle through a few more things before you start getting on that kind of development. I kind of see everything I went through, everything I've experienced, everything I've studied and have taken on as being kind of necessary before I found Steps to Knowledge. Steps to Knowledge was then just like the really big thing. It's what's opening everything up. But, everything leading up to that was essential. All my studies. I don't just throw it all away. I still use it periodically. And it's interesting because Steps to Knowledge opens up that stuff as well. It opens it up even more. Certain things may become more clear to you. Certain kinds of information will be given to you that was not available before concerning your older studies. It refreshes them. It breathes new life into them in a way. While at the same time, you become more careful and discreet about the things you might be discovering. That's what I'm dealing with. Things are getting deeper than they have been before, while at the same time, I can't just be making tons of videos and have a YouTube channel where I'm making videos every week, and it's not, it's not like that. It can't be like that anymore. Just practicing being with the presence. Not being distracted by all the millions of options and preferences and so-called freedoms. All the Coke or Pepsi freedoms, right? The Coke or Pepsi freedoms. The Smirnoff or Dark Eyes freedoms. That's freedom of choice. That's the kind of freedom of choice that's being thrust upon you. Coke or Pepsi, Smirnoff or Dark Eyes. Which kind of death are you looking for? We got all these options. It's very distracting. And if humanity is struggling and suffering, those easy outs are very seductive, actually. You can feel like you're free, but you're just enslaved. What is freedom? Manifesting $1 million with law of attraction, is that freedom? Manifesting a perfect lover, perfect house? Getting what you want? Do you even know what you want? Why are they focusing so much on selfish desires as if that's the highest spiritual attainment? Why are so many spiritual teachers, so-called, telling you that it's all just in your head? We just live in a solipsistic universe. It's all just in your head. It's all about what you believe, as if your beliefs are the foundation of reality. The power of belief and this and that and everything else. Of course your beliefs are strong and they can effect certain kinds of change. Of course, if you're trying to heal, you want to believe that you can heal. But you can't believe things like heavy metals into non-existence in your body. Like there's things about being in separation, being in physical reality, that require you to be very aware. It's not just they don't want you to be responsible in that way. They want you to be lost in la la land. And maybe you have experienced a few interesting synchronicities, some things concerning manifestation, and then that will convince you. That'll sell you on it. Yes, it is powerful. Yes, it does work. But then that lets all the poison pass through unnoticed. Of course, yeah, you really focus your mind on something. Things may start manifesting around that kind of focus. But the problem is everything that comes along with it. When you think that that's how the whole universe works. It's all just what you believe. Nothing is real. It's just what you believe is real. I don't think that's bad. Other people can believe it's bad, but I just let everything go. It's just about me, and life is just a vacation, and I just got to learn how to enjoy myself and relax, and that's spiritual development. That's frightening. That this kind of belief is taking off so much, and it's for a reason. It's for a purpose. It's not by accident. All that stuff did not come into this world by accident. So when you put humanity in enough dire straits, you make them suffer enough, you make them confused enough, it's really easy to give them false solutions to make them feel better. But to be truly free Boy, there's nothing like that. It takes work. You actually have to work for that kind of freedom. Work to maintain it, work to attain it to begin with. It's really important. This world's in danger of losing it. That's not something you want to lose. No way.